The Big Bad Bully in Me by Keith S. Evans. Silent Killer. One of the greatest fears of a person who is constantly bullied is telling someone. The thought and ramification have for all intent and purposes a repercussion from the bully himself, and the victim closes himself in a shell for isolation. Void and empty of any confidence in settling the pertinent matter at hand, the victim usually grapples with an immense fear for his life. Retaliation from the bully is most certainly going to happen if the victim opens his mouth. I have looked at this tactic from a spiritual disposition as it relates to bullying. To me, bullying is a silent killer. If you consider the mere fact that most victims have the proclivity to withdraw themselves out of fear. In some cases, one who may be a student stays away from school, making excuses such as sickness or not feeling well. Some cases of bullying may seem obscure or vague until the victim does the unthinkable and takes his own life. The story comes out with him being a victim of bullying. In my humble opinion, this is a precarious position to be in, especially for a young, vulnerable person. And if you know of anyone being bullied, please step forward and reach out to the victim to get help. The lion lurks. The Bible presents Satan as a serpent in Genesis 3 and Revelation 12. The serpent is perhaps the most scorned and hated of all creatures of God's creation. Very subtle and sly it seems to be. I dealt with the lion in comparison with the devil in chapter 1. How he lurks in an effort to devour the isolated and unsuspecting victim. I'll reiterate it here again to emphasize this most important tactic of Satan: to kill, steal, and destroy his victim. In Peter's epistle, he gives another description of Satan that portrays him as a lion. 1 Peter 5, verse 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walks about, seeking whom he may devour. It is a known fact that when studying the lion, that they hunt in packs and do so aggressively. Lions will furtively attack the apparent weak prey that is barely making it more often than not. The females do most of the hunting, and the males tag along with the hunt. They usually stay back until a kill is made. Lions attack the weakest prey and do so at night. We could draw some similarities in the lions and that of Satan. Keep in mind that lions attack at night and usually from the rear of their prey. Look with me in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 17 to 18. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, when ye were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindermost part of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not God. Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God had given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it. Notice the words hindermost, feeble, behind, faint, and weary in the text. Israel, in their passage through the wilderness, encountered their nemesis, the Amalekites, at their most vulnerable condition. The Amalekites were a nomadic tribe that had a fetish for stealing and murdering in the wilderness. The attacks on the enemy were well strategized and planned. The Amalekites observed their future prey by way of a scout or spy. They watched for the weak ones and took note on how to attack them. Their pernicious and diabolical attack on God's chosen people was condemned by Jehovah, who instructed Moses to record the attack and to remember Amalek. Amalek was a marked tribe. Fast forward into the future. God sent the prophet Samuel to King Saul to annihilate Amalek totally. 1 Samuel 15, verse 1 through 3. Samuel also said unto Saul, The Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way, when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Judgment was to be met out in totality on the Amalekites, to which hundreds of years later, God instructed Samuel to send Saul. The Amalekites' modus operandi were like that of lions that prey on the very vulnerable and unsuspecting. They were silent killers in their ways, and MO, bullying, and its residual effects are very much a silent killer for some young children or teenagers. It is very much a precarious disposition to find oneself chained and imprisoned to the effects of bullying. Parents and guardians must be argus-eyed or vigilant in watching their kids for any change in behavior or withdrawals. The victims of bullying tend to feel isolated and alone with no one to go to for assistance. Thinking back retrospectively, growing up as a young man in Hawksville High School, I was bullied by one of my classmates. I can remember avoiding certain classes just to avoid confrontation with that particular bully, but Hawksville High wasn't as bad as North Andrews High. I felt embarrassed and very small, having been humiliated amongst my peers often enough. Thank God that my situation with the bully did not last long, because I switched class to avoid the fiasco. Listen, bullying would and could lead to depression and anxiety on the victim immensely. This could result in the victim withdrawing himself from his peers and isolating himself from everyone. It could result in the victim himself becoming an introvert, or in some cases, suicidal. There are so many that are being bullied and also entertaining suicidal ideations as a result. It is obviously plausible to have a reasonable assumption that most victims of bullying become socially withdrawn due to harassment. The numbers don't lie. Bullying have caused a lot of pain and suffering, especially for the victims of bullying who take their own lives. They resort to suicide because they feel like there is absolutely no help nor end in sight to their unfortunate flight. We appreciate your time spent listening to the audio sample of The Big Bad Bully in Me by Keith S. Evans. This book is available on our website, www.protype.store. Once again, our website is www.protype.store. And please feel free to search our website for other books of interest. We have books of poetry, we have self-help, we have books on relationship, we also have devotionals. And sign up for our newsletter. We will be providing written samples and blogs from different books that we have available for sale. So we also have samples in audio, and we have little write-ups about books that are available for sale. Once again, we appreciate your time spent with us, and we look for future interaction with you. God bless you.